Beautiful. Yeah, buddy. What's up, Benji? How we going, mate? How are you? Hey, Benji. Eleni, how are you? Good to see everybody coming in. I know. I'll make a video and post it on I'll make a video and post it on TikTok tomorrow about the good cards I got. Hi, so just letting everybody know. Carnival is here. Also, Carnival, I'm good, thank you. I tried figuring out how to live stream on the purple app today. Couldn't figure it out, sorry. But I did do the Pokemon Pack opening share live. We hit 1,000 followers. Pretty stoked. Pretty sick. Yeah. It was good. I think we got 5 new, good. Thank you. I think we got 6 new cards, considering how many we've got already. That's really good. I've updated the milestone. We updated the milestone. I didn't have a nap, and I did go for a little walk. The new milestone is now 10,000. I'm always less cranky. I'm always less cranky, guys. What is up, Adara? How is London? How's London? Just letting everybody know who doesn't know already, Abby is reading tonight. My sister is reading tonight. 8,993. Oh, yep. Yep. Yes, she is. Woo! She'll be up here in 5 minutes. Drum roll. Jill will be here. That sounds great. Jill, that's nice to hear, Dara. Jill will be here. She won't be reading. She's too cool for that. What is this? That's so sick. Hi, Noah. Oh wow, 2 Noahs in the chat. That's crazy. It is gonna be my bedtime story. I didn't sleep very well last night. I'm very keen sleep now. Your username is literally I don't know a lot. This will most likely be my bedtime times. I've been into Harry Potter. I've loved Harry Potter forever. Like, I literally own a box set of Slytherin. Yeah, 2 Noahs, crazy. I've been into Harry Potter ever since I was a kid. I'm gonna be honest, fully open. I started watching it because little me was in love with Emma Watson. adult me is still very what's the better word now? Adult me is still yeah. I'm man enough to admit it. She's in yeah. I'm not gonna say anything else about her. But in a respectful way, you know. Yeah, but yeah, tomorrow, infatuated? Not at all. I'm not infatuated. No, I think I still, I don't know. I think she's a, I don't know how to put it. I'm not very good with what. But tomorrow I'm gonna do a video on. Yeah, the movies are sick, but the books are better in my opinion. Tomorrow I'm gonna do a video on the Pokemon cards I got today. I want to do Hit Me Up. The bacon went well. Tomorrow, that's so fair. That is so fair. Tomorrow, I want to do like a cooking video where I film myself, not live, just like film myself making breakfast. I am making actually eggs and eggs, 2 eggs in a wrap. I love eggs. If anybody tells you otherwise, they're lying. I think I'm gonna go. Maybe I'll have breakfast a little bit later tomorrow. I think I'm gonna go to the shops, but the thing is, Coles opens a little bit later tomorrow. Let me just know what time. Coles opens tomorrow at 9 a.m. Oh, that's not bad. That's not late. 9 a.m. Earlier than I thought. Yeah. Yes, I am. So I'm gonna go to Coles and I'm gonna buy some stuff that makes my. I'm still gonna have the exact same thing, but I'm gonna get some more mushrooms. I want to get some capsicum and tomato, and I'm gonna smash all that in, and then I'm gonna go buy banana, and I'm gonna have, instead of milk, I'm gonna put yogurt with my fiber brand instead. Tomorrow is just a TikTok stream, guys. Yeah, time diff is pretty wild. I joined someone's live yesterday, right? I was just scrolling through watching people's lives, and I joined someone's live, and she's like, "How are people already getting universes at 7 o'clock in the morning?" She's like, "I've just woken up, and people are already getting universes." And I'm like, you know, time differences exist, right? Time zones exist. But yeah, I know time zones exist. I'm saying it's 7 o'clock for me, and I'm just like, but it's not 7 o'clock for them. If it's 7 a.m. for you, that means it's like PM for some other people. Damn. Well, I need to figure out how I can stream Duel. I can't do it on my iPad. Because the iPad I don't have a laptop. Actually. I did sorry, I did that like I was gonna do something. I did have a laptop. I lent my laptop to my sister. Sophia. I never got it back. That's a great thought. Noon. Yeah, see, that's like me saying, wait, why are you having lunch now, Adara? It's 9 p.m. for me. I'm about to go to sleep. Why are people having lunch now? Shut up. Time zones. Freaking time zone. Speaking of, though, the sister is here right now, so maybe I can ask her where my laptop is. She probably sold it. I'm being honest. Being brutally honest, guys, she's probably sold it. Good morning, Bree. You made it. The sister will be reading today. I'm just waiting for her to come upstairs. Should be here any minute. I can't yell and scream like Abby because there's a baby asleep in our house. Bro. Prisoner of Azkaban is a lot of people's favorite books. My personal favorite is the one we're reading right now, Goblet of Fire. She could be Noah. Who knows? Guys, speaking of, look who it is! Look who it is! Thank you for the heart, me, Brie. Wait, I'm moving over now. Sorry, Abby's. When Jill learns to read. Abby's right here, by the way. She's just gonna quickly do a quick skim of the chapter. Like binoculars, but yeah. I've been asking you over and over again.
83.
Yeah, I've been asking you over and over again. Literally 2 days ago, it was like 3-page turns. Thank you for the heart, Roseberry. I think this will be a lot of your guys' first time hearing Abby read. Don't make fun of her too much. She's still learning. Kidding. You know, you judge me though. She's ready, guys. Oh, you like that? I'm fair game.
Thanks, Osa. Appreciate that.
Make sure it's...
Hey, bestie, how's it going?
You have to Goblet of Fire now. It's ABI, but left. But there's 2 cats next to it.
Hey. Yeah. Bit different.
Yeah, this is my sister, Carnival. This is my sister.
Right. Chapter 8. The Quidditch World Cup.
What book?
This is an extract from Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire by J.K. Rowling. J.K. Hogwarts House Edition. Chapter 8. The Quidditch World Cup. Clutching their purchases, Mr. Weasley in the lead, they all hurried into the wood, following the lantern-lit trail. They could hear the sounds of thousands of people moving around them, shouts and laughter, snatchings of singing. The atmosphere of feverish excitement was highly infectious. Harry couldn't stop grinning. They walked through the woods for 20 minutes, talking and joking loudly, until at last they emerged on the other side, and found themselves in the shadow of a gigantic stadium. Though Harry could see only a fraction of the immense gold walls surrounding the pitch, he could tell that 10 cathedrals would fit comfortably inside it. "Seats, 100,000, said Mr. Weasley, spotting the awestruck look on Harry's face. Ministry task force of 500 have been working on it all year. Muggle repelling charms on every inch of it. Every time Muggles have got anywhere near here all year, they've suddenly remembered urgent appointments and had to dash away again. Bless them, he added, fondly, leading the way towards the nearest entrance, which was already surrounded by a swarm of shouting witches and wizards. "Prime seats," said the Ministry witch at the entrance, when she checked their tickets. "Top box, straight upstairs, Arthur, and as high as you can go." The stairs into the stadium were carpeted in rich purple. They clambered upwards with the rest of the crowd, which slowly filtered away through doors into the stands of their left and right. Mr. Weasley's party kept climbing, and at last they reached the top of the staircase and found themselves in a small box, set at the highest point of the stadium and situated exactly halfway between the golden goalposts. About 20 purple and gilt chairs stood in 2 rows here, and Harry, filing into the front seats with the Weasleys, looked down upon a scene the like of which he could never have imagined. 100,000 witches and wizards were taking their places in the seats, rows and levels around the long oval pitch. Everything was suffused with a mysterious golden light that seemed to come from the stadium itself. Pitch looked smooth as velvet, and their lofty position. At either end of the pitch stood 3 goal hoops, 50 feet high, right opposite them, almost at Harry's eye level. A gigantic blackboard. Gold writing kept dashing across it as though an invisible giant's hand was scrawling upon it and then wiping it off again. Watching it, Harry saw that it was flashing advertisements across the pitch. The Blue Bottle. A broom for all the family. Safe, reliable, and with inbuilt anti-burglar buzzer. Mrs. Scour's all-purpose magical mess remover. No pain, no stain. Gladrag's wizardwear. London, Paris. Hogsmeade. Harry tore his eyes away from the sign and looked over his shoulder to see who else was sharing the box with them. So far, it was empty, except for a tiny creature sitting in the second from last seat to the end of the row behind them. The creature, whose legs were so short it stuck out in front of it on the chair, was wearing a tea towel draped like a toga, and it had its face hidden in its hands. Yet those long bat-like ears were oddly familiar. "Dobby?" Harry said, incredulously. The tiny creature looked up and parted its fingers, revealing enormous brown eyes and a nose the exact size and shape of a large tomato. It wasn't Dobby. It was, however, unmistakably a house elf that Harry's friend Dobby had been. Harry had set Dobby free from his old owners, the Malfoy family. Just call me Dobby," squeaked the elf, curiously, from between its fingers. Its voice was higher even than Dobby's had been, a teeny, quivering squeak of a voice. Harry suspected, though it was very hard to tell, with the house elf, that this one might just be female. Ron and Hermione spun around in their seats to look. Though they had heard a lot about Dobby from Harry, they had never actually met him. Even Mr. Weasley looked around in interest. "Sorry," Harry told the elf. "I just thought you were someone I knew." "But I know Dobby too, sir," squeaked the elf. She was shielding her face, as though blinded by light, though the top box was not brightly lit. "My name is Winky, sir. And you, sir?" Her dark brown eyes widened to the size of side plates as they rested upon Harry's scar. "You is surely Harry Potter?" "Yeah, I am," said Harry. "But Dobby talks to you all the time, sir," said, lowering her hands very slightly and looking awestruck. "How is he?" said Harry. How's freedom suiting him? Ah, sir, said Winky, shaking her head. Ah, sir, meaning no disrespect, sir, but I is not sure you did Dobby a favour, sir, when you was setting him free. Why? Said Harry, taken aback. What's wrong with him? Freedom is going to Dobby's head, sir, said Winky, sadly. Ideas above the station, sir. Can't get another position, sir. Why not? Said Harry. Winky lowered her voice by a half octave and whispered. He is wanting paying for his work, sir. Paying? Said Harry blankly. Well, why shouldn't he be paid? Winky looked quite horrified at the idea and closed his fingers slightly so that her face was half hidden again. Ourselves is not paid, sir, she said in a muffled squeak. No, I says to Dobby, I says go find himself a nice family and settle down, Dobby. He's getting up all sorts of hijinks, sir. What is unbecoming to a house elf? You goes racketing around like this, Dobby. I say, and the next thing I hear you's up in front of the Department of the Regulation and Control of Magical Creatures, like some common goblin. Well, it's about time you had a bit of fun, said Harry. House elves isn't supposed to have fun, Harry Potter, said Winky firmly, from behind her hands. House elves does what they say is told. I is not liking heights at all, Harry Potter. She glanced towards the edge of a box and gulped. But my master sends me to the top box, sir, and I come, sir. Why's he sent you up here if he knows you don't like heights? Said Harry, frowning. Master wants me to save him a seat, Harry Potter. He is very busy, said Winky, tilting her head towards the empty space beside her. Winky is wishing she is back in Master's tent, Harry Potter. But Winky does what she is told. Winky is a good house elf. She gave the edge of the box another frightened look and hid her eyes completely again. Harry turned back to the other side. So that's a house elf, Ron muttered. Weird things, aren't they? Dobby was weirder, said Harry, reverently. Ron pulled out his omnioculars and started testing them, staring down into the crowd on the other side of the stadium. Wild, he said, fiddling in the replay knob on the side. I can make that old bloke down there pick his nose again, and again, and again. Hermione, meanwhile, was skimming eagerly through her velvet-covered tasselled program. A display from the team mascots will precede the match, she read aloud. Oh, that's always worth watching, said Mr. Weasley. National teams bring creatures from their native land, you know, to put on a bit of a show. The box filled gradually round them over the next half hour. Mr. Weasley kept shaking hands with people who were obviously very important wizards. Percy jumped to his feet so often that it looked as though he was trying to sit on a hedgehog. When Cornelius Fudge, the Minister for Magic himself, arrived, Percy bowed so low that his glasses fell off and shattered. Highly embarrassed, he repaired them with his wand, and thereafter remained in his seat, throwing jealous looks at Harry, whom Cornelius Fudge had greeted like an old friend. They had met before, and Fudge shook Harry's hand in fatherly fashion, asked how he was, and introduced him to the wizards on each side of him. Harry Potter, you know, said loudly the Bulgarian minister, who was wearing splendid robes of black velvet with gold and didn't seem to understand a word of English. Harry Potter. Oh, come on now. You know who he is. The boy who survived. You know who. You do know who he is. The Bulgarian wizard suddenly spotted Harry's scar and started gabbling loudly and excitedly, pointing at it. You would get there in the end, said Fudge wearily to Harry. I'm no great shakes at language. I need Barty Crouch for his sort of thing. I see his house elf saving him a seat. Good job, too. These Bulgarian blighters have been trying to catch all the best places. And here's Lucius. Harry, Ron, and Hermione turned quickly, edging along the second row to 3 still empty seats right beside Mr. Weasley, where none other than Dobby the house elf's old owner, Lucius Malfoy, his son Draco, the woman Harry supposed must be Draco's mother. Harry and Draco Malfoy had been enemies ever since their very first journey to Hogwarts. A pale boy with pointed face and white blonde hair. Draco greatly resembled his father. His mother was blonde too, tall and slim. She would have been nice looking if she hadn't been wearing a look that suggested there was a nasty smell under her. Fudge, said Mr. Malfoy, holding his hand as he reached the Minister for Magic. How are you? I don't think you've met my wife, Narcissa, or our son Draco. How do you do? How do you do? Said Fudge, smiling and bowing to Mrs. Malfoy. And allow me to introduce you to Mr. Obolonks. He's a Bulgarian Minister for Magic, and he can't understand a word I'm saying anyway, so never mind. And let's see who else. You know Arthur Weasley, I dare say? It was a tense moment. Mr. Weasley and Mr. Malfoy looked at each other, and Harry vividly recalled last time that they had come face to face. It had been in Flourish and Flott's bookshop, and they had a fight. Mr. Malfoy's cold grey eyes swept over Mr. Weasley, and then up and down the row. Good Lord, Arthur, said softly. What did you have to sell to get seats in the top box? Surely your house wouldn't have fetched this much. Fudge, who wasn't listening, said, Lucius has just given a very generous contribution to St. Mungo's Hospital for magical maladies and injuries. Arthur, he's here as my guest. How nice, said Mr. Weasley, with a very strange smile. Mr. Malfoy's eyes had returned to Hermione, who went slightly pink, but stared determinedly back at him. Harry knew exactly what was making Mr. Malfoy's lips curl. The Malfoys prided themselves on being purebloods. In other words, they considered everyone of Muggle descent, like Hermione, second class. However, under the gaze of the Minister of Magic, Mr. Malfoy didn't dare say anything. He nodded sneeringly to Mr. Weasley and continued down the line to his seat. Draco shot Harry, Ron, and Hermione one contemptuous, then settled himself between his mother and father. Blimey gits, Ron muttered, as he, Harry, and Hermione turned to face the pitch again. Next moment, Ludo Bagman had charged into the box. Everyone ready? He said, his face gleaming like a great excited Edom. Minister, ready to go? Ready when you are, Ludo, said Fudge, comfortably. Ludo whipped out his wand, directed it at his own throat, and said, Sonorous! And then spoke over the roar of sound that was filling the packed stadium. His voice echoed over them, booming into every corner of the stands. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the final of the 422nd Quidditch World Cup. The spectators screamed and clapped. Thousands of flags waved, adding their discordant national anthems to the racket. The huge blackboard opposite them was wiped clear of its last mess. Bertie Bott's, every flavour beans, a risk with every mouthful, and now showed Bulgaria 0, Ireland 0. And now, without further ado, allow me to introduce the Bulgarian team mascots. The right-hand side of the stands, which was a solid block of scarlet, roared its approval. "I wonder what they brought," said Mr. Weasley, leaning forwards in his seat. "Ah." He suddenly whipped off his glasses and polished them hurriedly on his robes. "Veela." What 100 Veela were now gliding out onto the pitch, and Harry's question was answered for him. Veela were women, the most beautiful women Harry had ever seen, except that they weren't. They couldn't be human. This puzzled Harry for a moment, while he tried to guess what exactly they could be. What could make their skin shine moon bright like that, or their white gold hair fan out behind them without wind? But then the music started, and Harry stopped worrying about them not being human. In fact, he stopped worrying about anything at all. The Veela had started to dance, and Harry's mind had gone completely, blissfully blank. All that mattered in the world was that he kept watching the Veela, because if they stopped dancing, terrible things would happen. And as the Veela danced faster and faster, wild, half-formed thoughts started pacing through Harry's dazed mind. He wanted to do something very impressive right now. Jumping from the box into the stadium seemed like a good idea. But would it be good enough? "Harry, what are you doing?" said Hermione's voice a long way off. The music stopped. Harry blinked. He was standing up, and one of his legs was resting on the wall of the box. Next to him, Ron was frozen in an attitude that looked as though he was about to die from the springboard. Angry yells were filling the stadium. The crowd didn't want the Veela to go. Harry was with them. He would, of course, be supporting Bulgaria, and he wondered vaguely why he had a large green shamrock pinned to his chest. Ron, meanwhile, was absent-mindedly spreading the shamrock's hat. Mr. Weasley, smiling slightly, leant over to Ron and tugged the hat out of his hand. "You'll be wanting that," he said, "once Ireland have had their say." "Huh?" said Ron, staring open-mouthed at the Veela, who had now lined up along one side of the pitch. Hermione made a loud tutting noise. She reached up and pulled Harry back into his seat. "Honestly," he said. "And now," roared Ludo's bagman's voice, "kindly put your wands in the air for the Irish national team mascots." Next moment, what seemed to be a great green and gold comet had come zooming into the stadium. It did one circuit of the stadium, split into two smaller comets, each hurtling toward the goalposts. A rainbow arched suddenly across the pitch, connecting the two balls of light. The crowd oohed and ahed, as though as a firework display. Now the rainbow faded, and the balls of light reunited and merged. They had formed a great, shimmering shamrock, which rose up into the sky and began to soar over the stands. Something like golden rain seemed to be falling from it. "Excellent!" yelled Ron, as the shamrock soared over his heads, and heavy gold coins rained from it, bouncing off their heads and seats. Squinting up at the shamrock, Harry realized what it actually composed of thousands of tiny little bearded men with red waistcoats, each carrying a minute lamp of gold and green. "Leprechauns," said Mr. Weasley over the tumultuous applause of the crowd, many of whom were still fighting and rummaging around under their chairs to receive the gold. "There you go!" Ron yelled happily, stuffing a fistful of gold coins into Harry's hands. "For the omnioculars! Now you've got to buy me a Christmas present!" The great shamrock dissolved. The leprechauns drifted down onto the pitch on the opposite side from the Veela and settled themselves cross-legged to watch the match. "And now, ladies and gentlemen, kindly welcome the Bulgarian national Quidditch team. I give you Dimitrov." Scarlet-clad figure on a broomstick, moving so fast it was blurred, shot out onto the pitch from the entrance, far below, to wild applause from the Bulgarian quarters. Ivanova! A second scarlet-robed player zoomed out. Zograft, Levski, Volchanov, Volkov, and Crumb. That's him! That's him! Yelled Ron, following Crumb with his omnioculars. Harry quickly focused his own. Victor Crumb was thin, dark, and sallow-skinned, with a large curved nose and thick black eyebrows. He looked like an overgrown bird of prey. It was hard to believe he was only 18. And now, please, greet the Irish national Quidditch team, yelled Bagman. Presenting Connolly, Ryan, Troy, Mullet, Moron, Quinley, and Lynch. 7 green blurs swept onto the pitch. Harry spun a small dial on the side of the omnioculars and slowed the players down enough to read the word Firebolt on each of their brooms and see their names embroidered in silver upon their backs. And here, all the way from Egypt, our referee, acclaimed chair wizard on the International Association of Quidditch, Hassan Mustafa. A small and skinny wizard, completely bald, with a mustache to rival Uncle Vernon's, wearing robes of pure gold to match the stadium, strode out onto the pitch. A silver whistle was from under his mustache, and he was carrying a large wooden crate under one arm, his broomstick under the other. Harry spun the speed dial on his omnioculars back to normal, watching closely as Mustafa mounted his broomstick and kicked the crate open. 4 balls burst into the air, the scarlet quaffle, the 2 black bulges, and Harry saw it for the briefest moment before it sped out of sight. The minuscule, winged, golden snitch. With a sharp blast on his whistle, Mustafa shot into the air after the balls. They're off! Screamed Bagman. And his Mullet! Troy! Morin! Dimitrov! Back to Mullet! Troy! Levski! Morin! It was Quidditch, as Harry had never seen it played before. He was pressing his omnioculars so hard to his eyes that his glasses were cutting into the bridge of his nose. They speeded off the players. The speed of the players was incredible. The chasers were throwing the quaffle to each other so fast that Bagman only had time to say their names. Harry spun the slow dial on the right of his omnioculars again, pressed the play-by-play button on the top, and he was immediately watching in slow motion, while glittering purple lettering flashed across the lenses, and the noise of the crowd pounded against his eardrums. Hawkshed, attacking formation, he read, as he watched the 3 Irish chasers zoom closely together. Troy in the centre, slightly ahead of Mullet and Moran, bearing down upon the Bulgarians. Hawks of ploy flash up next. Troy made as though to dart upwards with the quaffle, drawing away the Bulgarian chaser Ivanova, and dropping the quaffle Moran. One of the Bulgarian beaters, Volkov, swung hard at the passing bludger with his ball club, knocking it into Moran's path. Moran ducked to avoid the bludger and dropped the quaffle, and Levski, soaring beneath, caught it. Troy scores! Roared Bagman, and the stadium shuddered with the roar of applause and cheers. 10-0 to Ireland! What? Harry yelled, looking wildly around through his omnioculars. But Levski's got the quaffle! Harry, if you're not going to watch at normal speed, you're going to miss things, shouted Hermione, who was dancing up and down, waving her arms in the air while Troy did a lap of honour on the pitch. Harry looked quickly over the top of his omnioculars, saw that the leprechauns watching from the sidelines had all risen into the air again, and formed a great glittering shamrock. Across the pitch, the Veela were watching them sulkily. Furious with himself, Harry spun his speed dial back to normal as play resumed. Harry knew enough about Quidditch to see the Irish chasers were superb. They worked as a seamless team, appearing to read each other's minds by the way they positioned themselves, and the rosette on Harry's chest kept squeaking their names. Troy, Mullet, Moran. And within 10 minutes, Ireland had scored twice more, bringing their lead to 30-0 and causing a thunderous tide of roars and applause from the green-clad supporters. The match still faster, but more brutal. Volkov and Volchanov, the Bulgarian beaters, were watching the Bludgers as fierce as possible at the Irish chasers. They were starting to prevent them using some of their best moves. Twice they were forced to scatter, and then finally, Ivanova managed to break through their ranks, dodge the keeper Ryan, and score Bulgaria's first goal. Fingers in your ears, bellowed Mr. Weasley as Sevilla started to dance in celebration. Harry screwed up his eyes too. He wanted to keep his mind on the game. After a few seconds, he chanced to glance at the pitch. Sevilla had stopped dancing, and Bulgaria were again in possession of the quaffle. Dimitrov, Levski, Dimitrov, Ivanova! Oh, I say! Roared Bagman. 100,000 wizards and witches gasped as the two seekers, Crumb and Lynch, plummeted through the centre of the chasers so fast that it looked as though they had just jumped from the aeroplanes without parachutes. Harry followed their descent through his omnioculars, squinting to see where the snitch was. They're going to crash! Screamed Hermione next to Harry. He was half right. At the very last second, Victor Crumb pulled out of the dive and spiraled off. Lynch, however, hit the ground with a dull thud that could be heard throughout the stadium. A huge groan rose from the Irish seats. Fool, moaned Mr. Weasley. Crumb was fainting. It's time out, yelled Bagman's voice, as trained Mediwizards hurry onto the pitch to examine Aiden Lynch. He'll be okay. He only got ploughed, Harley said reassuringly to Ginny, who was hanging over the side of the box, looking horror-struck. Which is what Crumb was after, of course. Harry hastily pressed the replay and play-by-play buttons on the omnioculars, twiddled the speed dial and then put them back to his eyes. He watched as Crumb and Lynch dived down in slow motion. Vronsky, faint, dangerous seeker diversion, read the shining purple letters across his lenses. He saw Crumb's face contorted with concentration as he pulled out of the dive just in time, while Lynch was flattened, and he understood. Crumb hadn't seen the snitch at all. He was just making Lynch copy him. Harry had never seen anyone fly like that. Crumb hardly looked as though he was using a broomstick at all. He moved easily through the air, that it looked as though he was unsupported and weightless. Harry turned his omnioculars back to normal and focused them on Crumb. He was circling high above Lynch, who was now being received by Mediwizards with cups of potion. Harry, focusing still more closely upon Crumb's face, saw his dark eyes darting all over the ground 100 feet below. He was using the time while Lynch was revived to look for the snitch without interference. Lynch got back to his feet at last, with loud cheers from the green-clad supporters, mounted his firebolt and kicked back into the air. His revival seemed to give Ireland new heart. When Mustafa blew his whistle again, the chasers moved into the action with a skill unrivaled by anything Harry had seen so far. After 15 more fast and furious minutes, Ireland had pulled ahead by 10 more goals. They were now leading by 130 points to 10, and the game was starting to get dirtier. As Mullet shot through the goalpost yet again, clutching the quaffle tightly under his arm, the Bulgarian keeper, Zograf, flew out to meet him. Whatever happened was over so quickly Harry didn't catch it, but a scream of rage from the Irish crowd, and Mustafa's long, shrill whistle blast told him it had been a foul. And Mustafa takes the Bulgarian keeper to task for cobbling excessive use of elbows. Bagman formed the roaring spectator. And yes, it's a penalty to Ireland. The leprechauns, who had risen angrily into the air like a swarm of glittering hornets when Mullet had been fouled, now darted together to form the words, "Ha ha ha!" The Vila on the other side of the pitch leapt to their feet, tossed their hair angrily, and started to dance again. As one, the Weasley boys and Harry stuffed their fingers in the ears. Hermione, who hadn't bothered, was soon tugging on Harry's arm. He turned to look at her, and she pulled his fingers impatiently out of his ears. "Look at the referee," she said, giggling. Harry looked down at the pitch. Hassan Mustafa had landed right in front of the dancing Vila and was acting very oddly indeed. He was flexing his muscles and smoothing his mustache excitedly. "Now, we can't have that," said Ludo Bagman, though he sounded highly amused. "Somebody slap that referee!" The Mediwizard came tearing across the pitch, his fingers stuffed in his own ears, and kicked Mufasa hard on the shins. Mustafa seemed to come to himself. Harry, watching through his omnioculars again, saw that he looked exceptionally embarrassed, and was shouting at the Vila, who had stopped dancing and were looking mutinous. "And unless I'm mistaken, Mustafa is actually attempting to send off the Bulgarian team mascots," said Bagman. "Now there's something we haven't seen before. Oh, this could turn nasty." It did. The Bulgarian beaters, Volkov and Volchanov, had landed either side of Mustafa and began arguing furiously with him, gesticulating towards the leprechauns, who had now gleefully formed the words, "He, he, he." Mustafa was not impressed by the Bulgarians' argument. However, he was jabbing his fingers into the air, clearly telling them to get flying again, and when they refused, he gave them 2 short blasts on his whistle. "2 penalties for Ireland!" shouted Bagman, and the Bulgarian crowd howled with anger. And Volkov and Volchanov had better get back to those brooms. Yes, there they go. And Troy takes the quaffle. Play now reached a level of ferocity beyond anything they had yet seen. The beaters on both sides were acting without mercy. Volkov and Volchanov in particular seemed not to care whether their clubs made contact with bludger or human. As they swung them violently through the air, Dimitrov shot straight at Moran, who had the quaffle, nearly knocking her off the broom. "Foul!" roared his Irish supporters at once, all standing up in a great wave of green. "Foul!" echoed Ludo Bagman's magically magnified voice. Dimitrov skins Moran, deliberately flying to collide there, and there's got to be another penalty. Yes, there's the whistle. The leprechauns had risen again into the air, and again, this time they formed a giant hand, which was making a very rude sign indeed. Across the pitch towards Sevilla. At this, Sevilla lost control. They launched themselves across the pitch and began throwing what seemed to be handfuls of fire at the leprechauns. Watching through his omnioculars, Harry saw that they didn't look remotely beautiful now. On the contrary, their faces were elongating into sharp, cruel-beaked bird heads, and long, scaling wings were bursting from their shoulders. "And that, boys," yelled Mr. Weasley over the tumult of the crowd below, "is why you should never go for looks alone." Ministry wizards were flooding into the field to separate the Vila and the leprechaun, but with little success. Meanwhile, the pitched battle below was nothing to the one above. Harry turned his way, and that, staring through his omnioculars as the quaffle changed hands with the speed of a bullet. Levski, Dimitrov, Moran, Troy, Mullet, Ivanova, Moran, again Moran! Moran scores! But the cheers of the Irish supporters were barely heard over the shrieks of the Vila, the blast now issuing from the ministry members' wands, and the furious roars of the Bulgarians. The game recommenced immediately. Now Levski had the quaffle, now Dimitrov. The Irish beater, Quingley, swung heavily on a passing Bulger, and hit it hard as possible towards Crumb, who did not duck quickly enough. It hit him hard in the face. There was a deafening groan from the crowd. Crumb's nose looked broken. There was blood everywhere, but Hassan Mustafa didn't blow his whistle. He had become distracted, and Harry couldn't blame him. One of the Veela had thrown a handful of fire and set his broomtail alight. Harry wanted someone to realize that Krum was injured. Even though he was supporting Ireland, Krum was one of the most exciting player on the pitch. Ron obviously felt the same. Time out! Ah, come on. He can't play like that. Look at him. Look at Lynch, Harry yelled. For the Irish seeker had suddenly gone into a dive, and Harry was quite sure that this was no Wronski feint. This was the real thing. He's seen the snitch, Harry shouted. He's seen it. Look at him go. Half the crowd seemed to have realised what was happening. The Irish supporters rose in a great wave of green, screaming to see Krum. But Krum was on his tail, and he could see where he was going. Harry had no idea where the flecks of blood flying through the air behind him, but he was drawing level with Lynch now, as the pair of them hurtled toward the ground again. They're going to crash, shrieked Hermione. They're not, roared Ron. Lynch is, Harry yelled. And he was right. For the second time, Lynch hit the ground with a tremendous force and was immediately stampeded by a horde of the angry Veela. The snitch! Where's the snitch? Bellowed Charlie along the row. He's got it! Krum's got it! It's all over! Shouted Harry. Krum, his red robe shining with the blood from his nose, was rising gently into the air, his fist held high, and a glint of gold in one hand. The scoreboard was flashing. Bulgaria 160, Ireland 170. Across the crowd, who didn't seem to have realised what was happened. Then, slowly, as though a great jumbo jet was reviving up, the rumbling from the Ireland supporters grew louder and louder and erupted into screams of delight. Ireland win! Shouted Bagman, who, like the Irish, seemed to have been taken aback at the sudden end of the match. Krum gets a snitch, but Ireland win! Good Lord, I don't think any of us were expecting that. What did he catch a snitch for? Ron bellowed, even as he jumped up and down, applauding with his hands over his head. He ended it when Ireland were 160 points ahead. The idiot! He knew they were never going to catch up, Harry shouted back over all the noise, also applauding loudly. The Irish chasers were too good. He wanted to end it on his terms, that's all. He was very brave, wasn't he? Hermione said, leaning forward to watch Krum land, and the swarm of Medi-Wizards blasting a path through the battling leprechauns and Veela to get to him. He looks a terrible mess. Harry put his omnioculars to his eyes again. It was hard to see what was happening below because leprechauns were zooming delightedly all over the pitch, but he could just make out Krum surrounded by Medi-Wizards. He looked surlier than ever and refused to let them mop him up. His teammates were around him, shaking their heads and looking dejected. A short way away, the Irish players were dancing gleefully in a shower of gold descending from their mascot. Flags were waving all over the stadium. The Irish national anthem blared from all sides. The Veela were shrinking back into their usual beautiful selves now, though looking dispirited and forlorn. Delvey fought bravely, said a gloomy voice behind Harry. He looked around. It was the Bulgarian Minister for Magic. You can speak English? Said Fudge, sounding outraged. And you've been letting me mime everything all day. Well, it was very funny, said the Bulgarian minister, shrugging. And as the Irish team perform a lap of honour, flanked by their mascot, the British World Cup itself is brought into the top box, roared Bagman. Harry's eyes were suddenly dazzled by blinding white light as the top box was magically illuminated so that everyone in the stands could see the inside. Squinting towards the entrance, saw two panting wizards carrying into the box a vast golden cup, which they handed to Cornelius Fudge, who was still looking very disgruntled that he'd been using sign language all day for nothing. Let's have a really loud hand for the gallant losers, Bulgaria! Bagman shouted, and up the stairs into the box came the 7 defeated Bulgarian players. The crowd below were applauding appreciatively. Harry could see thousands and thousands of omnioculars lenses flashing and winking in their direction. One by one, the Bulgarians filed between the rows of seats in the box, and Bagman called out the names of each as they shook hands with their own minister. And then with Fudge. Crumb, who was last in line, looked a real mess. 2 black eyes were blooming spectacularly on his bloody face. He was still holding the snitch. Harry noticed that he seemed much less coordinated on the ground. He was slightly duck-footed and distinctively round-shouldered. But when Crumb's name was announced, the whole stadium gave him a resounding, ear-splitting roar. And then came the Irish team. Aidan Lynch was being supported by Moran and Connolly. His second crash seemed to have dazed him, and his eyes looked strangely focused. But he grinned happily as Troy and Quingley lifted the cup into the air and the crowd's bellow thundered their approval. Harry's hands were numb with clapping. At last, when the Irish team had left the box to perform another lap of honour on their brooms, Aidan Lynch on the back of Connolly's, clutching hard around his waist and still grinning in the bemused sort of way. Bagman pointed at his wand at his throat and muttered, "Quietest." "They'll be talking about this one for years," he said hoarsely. "A really unexpected twist, that. Shame it couldn't have lasted longer. Ah, yes, I owe you. How much?" For Fred and George had just scrambled over the backs of their seats and were standing in front of Ludo Bagman with broad grins on their faces, their hands outstretched. This is a really long chapter, I agree. That was crazy.
Chapter's done. I've been trying to get Abby up to read for like a bit now. And the last like 5 chapters have been really short, and Abby decides to come up and read that one, which is the longest chapter ever.
You kept telling me, I was like, yeah, they're only like 10 pages
One
long.
of them was like, no, ooh, scrap jewels there. I'll show you.
Thanks. We saw him, Karma.
Honest. Yeah, you have.
That one just kept on going. I'm good, Karma. Oh, I forgot. Hey, Bree. Thanks, Bree. How are you, Karma?
I didn't lie.
Yeah, I agree, Senator Karma. You did lie to me. Told me it was short. Longest chapter I've ever read. Oh, thanks, Karma. I appreciate that. Very long. Alright. I'm going to bed. See you guys later.
See that. Guys, right before she goes, look who's coming to say goodbye. Look who's coming to say goodbye, guys. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. So, Adara and Karma will say bye. Oh, I'm back. What? Abby says you're her besties. How was it, guys? How was your what do you think of that chapter? I thought that was a lot. What's the next chapter called? Next chapter is called The Dark Mark. Yeah, the chapters. Not only are the chapters long, like there's a lot of pages, the font in this book has also been shrunk, so the pages feel bigger because the words are smaller. Yeah, well, guess what, guys? You have me for a longer read tomorrow. What? Not that bad. Courtney, good luck. Good luck getting Courtney to read. I don't think Courtney. I don't. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I'd be able to. They turned out there. I think it's because I might have put too much sweet potato in. They turned out very cakey rather than brownie, but they go really good with either unsweetened cream or yogurt. Like really nice. I had them with coconut yogurt for dessert. I had one of the pieces of coconut yogurt for dessert, and it was freaking amazing. Took a while though. Took a long time because I had to roast the potato first, like 40 minutes. It took ages. Guys, say hi to Basil as usual. I am gonna end the live here, guys, because I'm very, very tired. And I like sleep. Yeah, Basil would have a chiseled jawline if he wasn't eating straight carbs 24/7. Mm. Yeah, his all of his weight goes to his ankles, fortunately. Hey guys. Good night, Bree. The cankles, yeah. Okay, guys, I'm gonna end the live here. I'll see you all tomorrow. Those who can make it for the cooking stream. We're making banana bread tomorrow. Oh yeah. I'm gonna end the live in 3, 2, 1. Bye bye.